Hi, I'm Mike Roberts, Principal Analyst with Informa Telecoms and Media, here with Egil Gronstrad, Vice President of Technology Planning at Cricket Communications. Egil, welcome.
Thank you.
Gave a very interesting presentation earlier on some of the unique challenges and opportunities of LTE for a regional operator, you being obviously a regional operator here in the US. Could you tell us some of those opportunities and challenges you were mentioning in your talk earlier?
Yeah, so we see a great opportunity with LTE that it will help us create more efficiency in our network and help us stay competitive in the market with offering better services and greater speed on the services for our customers. But we do also think that there are challenges associated with LTE from the point of view that there still are a number of issues that needs to be worked out, especially as it comes to delivering voice services efficiently. We view LTE primarily initially as a broadband network. So when it comes time for us to deploy LTE, we will first deploy it as a broadband overlay on top of our existing 3G network assets and start migrating our broadband services, our dongle business over from the EVDO platform to the LTE platform.
Mm-hmm. Could you give us any sort of feeling for timelines of when you might be doing that, or what you have said about when you may launch your first foray into LTE?
So we have not announced a timing for deployment of LTE yet. We are following the other operators very closely, what they're doing, and we have started doing some field trials in order to get ready for it. We think it's very important that we do these field trials to develop competence within our organization, getting our technicians up to speed and learn about it, and also find out how to most cost-effectively deploy LTE as an overlay to our existing assets. We want to make sure that we can reuse as much of the assets that we have on ground as possible and make sure that we find out how to most efficiently use our spectrum. So we have trials going on right now and with multiple vendors, and we'll continue to do that for a while and continue to monitor our competitors and learn about the device ecosystem. We do think that the device ecosystem for LTE is really going to be the determining factor for when we roll out LTE. We think that the cost for devices needs to be reasonable, and we think as with all new technologies, it will take a little bit of time to get the cost down.
And I know you're not committing to dates, but it sounds like you're obviously planning to be not on the bleeding edge of the technology. You're quite happy to wait and let some of the other operators go first and sort of benefit from their really experiences and learnings.
We think we can afford to wait a little bit, yes, because we have invested in EVDO network in addition to our 1X network that is working very well for us. It's a very efficient technology and a very healthy device ecosystem, very cost-effective devices. So we think there is a bit more life to get out of that technology. So we don't need to be on the bleeding edge with LTE now.
And you mentioned spectrum. Every operator's spectrum position is different, of course, around the world. As a regional operator, you may not have the same depth of spectrum as some of the bigger operators in the US who spent billions in the 700 megahertz auction and the AWS spectrum auction for that matter. How does your spectrum position affect your plans for deploying LTE?
So we're reasonably well positioned with spectrum. We have AWS spectrum available in essentially all of our markets that we could deploy LTE if we chose to do that today. So that AWS spectrum, so our plan is to standardize LTE for initial rollout on the AWS spectrum. So we have that option, so we could do that today, or we will, or we can continue to expand our 3G platform into the AWS spectrum. But we do feel that we have an advantage there, that we don't have a big hodgepodge of lots of different spectrums. We have PCS spectrum and we have AWS spectrum. That's the two spectrum types we have. And so we have a little bit of luxury there. I think that we can actually standardize LTE on primarily one type of spectrum.
That's an advantage. You could argue that some people would say not having the 700 megahertz spectrum, which obviously is a lower frequency, which will have better propagation, could be something of a disadvantage for you as far as the amount of money you have to invest to deploy a network, to deploy coverage, the amount of in-building coverage you would get. How would you address that potential challenge?
Well, since, yes, we're a regional operator, but we're primarily deployed in the metro areas. So in the metro areas, we have already deployed sufficient density of the cell sites in order to have a reasonable in-building coverage. So we think that it's not a big disadvantage as far as deployment in the metro areas. If you go out more in the rural areas, yeah, 700 offers a lot more benefits from propagation, but we don't think it's a big disadvantage for us the way we have built our networks.
A sort of different question for you. How has the conference gone for you so far? How are you finding it?
So far, I think this conference has been very good. It's still early in the conference, but there has been some very good presentations, very interesting perspectives. I think most of the operators see some of the same issues, especially around service offerings and voice services and the different options and all of that. So it's been quite enlightening. So it's been a great conference so far, and there's been some very good networking, people that you get to catch up with that you haven't seen for years. So yeah, it's been great so far.
Great, and I think we can safely say from some of the presentations we've seen in the conversations that voice is still one of the major challenges for LTE, both getting people to agree on a system before we get voice, over IMS, and getting people even to agree on that and when it might happen and device support. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree with that assessment, yes.
Okay, great. With that, Egil, thank you again very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.